Ungovernables, the Captain's Crew, the LFA family, McGroin Nation, coming to you live from the deep red state of Tennessee on rumble.com/LFA TV, also on X. Welcome to Ungoverned. I got to take a sip of tea. All right. We got to do this right off the bat because we've been dealing with some stuff online. And I want to address it. I'm going to try and be nice, but just going to say it might get a little bumpy, so just buckle up. Look, I am a very impatient person, all right? I grew up in New York. I like when things happen fast. But I also don't cook my steaks in the microwave just because it's quick. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, when you grill meats, you cook your dinner low and slow is generally, you get more flavor out of it that way, right? It's just, you put more time, you put more effort. So, I get it, and let me start it this way, because the last time we had a conversation like this, I don't think I made myself very clear. I'm not saying that people can't ask questions. I am not advocating for less or a lack of transparency. So I want to be very clear about these things, okay? Asking questions is fine. I'm not saying we can't ask. I'm not saying we can't theorize. I'm not saying everybody has to agree. But this is where I am right now with Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, and the FBI, okay? I am by nature a very impatient person. All right? I do like when things happen fast. I don't like waiting. I don't like being told to wait. However, cleaning out the FBI, rooting out corruption in the deep state is not a TV show. It's not a movie that is 2.5 hours long and the case gets built in an hour and the trial happens in 30 minutes and then the movie wraps up and people go to jail. That is not real life. And I know we exist in a world where we have instant gratification a lot of the times. You could post a video and within a couple of hours you have 1 million views and it feels great, right? Or you could launch a podcast online and you can reach millions of people and you could reach hundreds of thousands of people and it feels good because you did what it took several people, 30 years ago, decades to do, and you did it in months. But the fact of the matter is, what Kash Patel and what Dan Bongino are doing at the FBI is not a part of a script, and it's not something that can happen in a matter of days or weeks or even months. And folks, Bongino has been involved as the deputy director at the FBI for 5 weeks. So while I understand being frustrated with the pace, and I understand that it feels like we've been waiting a long time for accountability. We have not been waiting very long for accountability with this leadership. We have been waiting 1.5 months at most. Now, I'm not saying we can't ask questions and we can't make our position clear that we want accountability. How many times do I say it on this show that without consequences, nothing will matter? I say it literally just about every single day, right? I get it. I'm with you on that. But as I said earlier, I don't cook my steak in the microwave because when you make microwave steak, it doesn't taste that good, right? It's not worth the fact that you can, Amazon Prime your steaks, for lack of a better term. I like taking the time and letting it soak and then marinate and then grilling it and it's nice. I see this a lot. Well, Kash Patel said on day one that he would turn the FBI Hoover building into a museum of the deep state. Okay, did you take that comment literally? I'm honestly asking this question. When he said that, did you believe that there would be a museum at FBI headquarters on the first day that Kash Patel was sworn in? Like, did you think he was going to put his hand up and swear in, and then all of a sudden there's a museum after 24 hours? Is that what you really thought was going to happen? Correct me if I'm wrong. We all just voted for the most hyperbolic speaker in the history of American politics, Donald Trump. Everything's big. I love him. I love the guy. Wait, is Donald Trump a failure too? By that logic, Donald Trump would be a failure too, because he said that the Russia-Ukraine war would be done in 24 hours, and it hasn't been. So is Donald Trump compromised too? By that logic, are we applying our standards equally? No, the answer is no. Donald Trump is not a failure. Kash Patel is not a failure. Okay, saying he's going to turn the FBI Hoover building into a museum of the deep state on day one was hyperbole. If you took those words literally and thought there was going to be a museum in place there, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. You know, a guy like Bongino walked away from a multi-million-dollar media empire in the making to serve us. And I know the Steve Jensen thing is weird. People are like, well, what about, did you know who Steve Jensen was before you were told how to think about Steve Jensen? Honestly, I know some J6ers did because they were impacted by the guy. Many of us, including me, did not know who he was until a couple of weeks ago. We all can't profess to be experts about the guy. I'm not professing to be an expert about the guy. The things that I've heard about him are not good. I don't know why he got that position. But I do know one thing. I am willing to give the guys that I advocated for and stood behind and pushed for and got excited about to take the role of FBI director and deputy FBI director. I'm willing to give them more than a month before I make up my mind and start trashing these guys. Dan Bongino is being called all sorts of, look, he doesn't need me to be his defense attorney. And I'm not personal friends with the guy. I have a lot of respect for what he did. He was one of the guys who inspired me to start being active and start being loud, right? So there's a personal aspect to it, but I'm not personal friends with Dan Bongino. Yes, I've worked with his producer, Jim, and I've worked with them to make bits and stuff to add to their show. I'm not personal friends. I'm not demanding that. This is not about, he shouts you out, so this is why. No. I'm being real here, folks. What that guy walked away from to serve us, to be treated like complete crap, it is mind-blowing that we could be so quick. I see people who are like, well, what happened? Is it Israel? Someone blamed the Jews this morning. Somehow it's the Jews' fault. I just don't understand why we think and how we think that every problem in the FBI would have been fixed in a month. And this one gets me the worst. Well, Biden's Department of Justice wasted no time going after J6ers. You're right, and we had a problem with it because they weaponized and perverted the system. Not just that, but do you remember last year in June what happened, the ruling that came from the Supreme Court? Obstruction of an official proceeding. 1512, remember that charge? That many J6ers were charged with to force them into plea deals so they didn't face 20 years in prison? Remember that charge? What did the Supreme Court rule about that charge? They said that the use of that charge, the application of that charge in J6 cases was inappropriate. So when asking why isn't the current FBI and DOJ treating the deep state like Biden's DOJ treated J6ers, are you asking them to recklessly levy charges and prosecute people only to then be overturned in a couple of years by the Supreme Court? Do you understand that if we are reckless and we don't measure twice and then cut once, what that means in a court of law? In a court that, by the way, in D.C., many of these cases are going to be heard in D.C., you're not getting a fair trial. So you need a case that is so airtight that a jury composed of people pulled from a jury pool, from a jurisdiction that voted 97% for Kamala Harris. You have to convince them. You don't have to convince us. You don't have to convince the court of public opinion. You've got to convince a D.C. jury in many of these cases that the corruption that we know occurred actually occurred. Do you want them to throw things at the wall? Because there's this thing in this country called double jeopardy. Once you try the case, if you fail, that's it. They're off. They skate. So you can get your arrest. You can get your perp walk. You can throw them in a holding cell, and then you can go ahead and have their case and hold their trial, and then they get off, and that's it. Because I'll tell you what I want from the FBI. I don't want recklessness. I don't want arrests because a bunch of people on the internet got impatient and started flipping out. I want precision. What, you think this hasn't directly impacted me? How dare you? Don't you dare. And I'm not necessarily saying this to people in this chat right now. I'm saying to everybody who is out there running their mouth. Because I actually haven't looked at any of the comments yet. I'm looking dead at the camera and I'm just flowing, okay? So I don't know what people are saying and what they're not saying. And again, I'm not saying you can't ask questions. I'm saying, listen, from my perspective, you think I don't want the people who called a SWAT team into this house caught? You think I don't sit there and think about when are these people going to be brought to justice? You think I don't want the people or the person? I heard the 911 call. It's right here. I got the 911 call. You know why I haven't posted it online yet? Because I'm not a grifter looking for clicks. You think I don't want the guy who called in and made that call and had my wife and I escorted out of this house by police officers with rifles pointed at us? You think I don't want that guy brought to justice? You think I don't want consequences? What, do you think I think this is just some sort of game? It's not a game. You know what I want more than consequences? I want when those people are arrested. I want to know that the case that has been built against them is airtight so that there is no chance that person skates on a technicality. I want, if we're going to arrest James Comey, I want to know that case is so airtight that even a D.C. jury can't look at that and say, nah, well, you know what? Not guilty. This ain't Law and Order. This isn't, one of these movies, crime capers, where it all gets resolved in 3 hours. It's going to take a long time. When has government ever acted quickly? The answer is never. And to think that no problems have been solved at the FBI, well, I can counter that and say Christopher Wray is gone and there's one problem solved. I'm not saying we can't be frustrated with the pace. And by the way, I'm not sold on Pam Bondi, okay? And I've been very honest about that. And I was the first person to say that how the Epstein files were handled by Bondi was a mess. And I bet you if she was off the record, she'd probably tell you that. But that does not mean I'm going to trash the guys like Bongino and Patel, who I know don't have to be doing what they're doing for us right now. And the treatment that they're getting is just abominable. When did we become so entitled? When did we become so irrational? And by we, I don't mean necessarily the people watching right now. I mean, overall, there's a lot of people on our side who are just so impatient. Well, it didn't happen on my timeline, so F them. You know, I dealt with this crap on Long Island. Kevin and I did. We didn't do things exactly the way somebody wanted, and that's it. We're dead. Politicians and civilians alike. After sticking our necks out there for people. After being called terrorists in the media by elected officials. None of that seems to matter. All I'm asking is that you give the guys that we were so excited about a month ago, that you give them realistic amounts of time. I say wait at least a year. It's okay to be frustrated with the pace. I get frustrated with the pace. I don't like that this is the way it has to be with how long it takes. I'm an impatient person to a fault. Many faults. If you've ever been in the car with me during while we're sitting in traffic, you'll see that. Yeah. It's not good. I've done actual damage to my truck on the interior because of traffic. I am very impatient. That's not rational behavior either. My point is, if we want arrests, if we want accountability, we need to allow the guys in charge to build airtight cases that can convince the most biased jury, a DC jury. If we don't give them that time, if we start flipping out after a month and they cave to the pressure and start being reckless, you'll get your arrests. You'll get your indictments. And then they'll be acquitted. And then what? I mean, it even took them 3 years to indict Donald Trump. And they made up the evidence. All I'm saying is to pump the brakes on this. Don't ruin a good thing. Don't ruin a good thing. And I'm sorry, but it is not fair that those two men cannot personally defend themselves because they're busy serving the people who are trashing them. That is disgusting. Don't ruin a good thing. Please. Questions? Fine. Thoughts? No worries. Declarations that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are going to get nothing done after a month? Irrational. Unacceptable. Silly. Stupid. Questions aren't stupid. Making that declaration that, oh, well, you know, it's been a month, nothing's happened, so nothing's going to happen. Come on. And I want their work to stick. I don't just want arrests for arrest's sake. Measure twice, measure 3 times, but make one cut so you don't make a mess of the entire thing. Precision. Follow through. Meaningful work. There's nobody else, not a soul, who I would want at the helm of the FBI other than Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. And that has not changed over the course of a month. I hope I make myself clear. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me get to a word from our friends over at OFP Farms. I didn't mean for that to go on for so long, but I just hope the right people were listening. That's all. Because if you've been on X lately, it has been just, it has just been crazy. Okay? A lot of crazy comments. So, what I see a lot of people over on X, including our friend Matthew Winterhawk, says that's a good analogy. I'm assuming he means my steak analogy. You cook steak in the microwave, it's done fast and you could eat it, but does it really taste that good? No. I'd rather take the time and do it. They're not doing. And by the way, later in the show, I have great news about what the FBI and the DOJ did. Great news. We'll get to that. It's not. Listen. I want them to go after corrupt politicians too. You think I want these people to skate? No, of course not. Of course not. But there you go. All right. We'll get to more of that in a second. I want to get to a word from our friends over at OFP Farms. OFP, they know good things take time. What do you think? They microwave these beautiful soaps? No. They put tender love and care, blood, sweat, and tears, their time into these beautiful products. Look, if this was the Rush soap, it wouldn't look this good. It certainly wouldn't smell this good. The inauguration box that they put together, the Mother's Day boxes that they put together, it takes time. And we love them for it. OFPfarms.com, OFPfarms.com, OFPfarms.com. Folks, Mother's Day is right around the corner, and boy, do I have to show you this really cute video from OFP Farms. They are amazing. May 11th, Mother's Day. If you've gotten the... I always say be like Dylan, right? Dylan Filion, he bought his mom a Mother's Day. Hopefully Dylan's mom isn't watching. He bought his mom a Mother's Day gift box. She will be excited to receive it, I'm sure. But I want to play this video from OFP Farms. It's amazing. You got these goats. They're out there just killing the game out there, OFP Farms. Mother's Day gift box, 20% off on the website if you use the promo code Sean. Take a look. OFPfarms.com, promo code SHAWN for 20% off. That's OFPfarms.com, promo code Sean, OFPfarms.com, promo code SHAWN to pick up some of those amazing Mother's Day gift sets. Mother's Day is right around the corner, a couple weeks away, May 11th, and the Mother's Day sale is 20% off. Usually it's 15, now it's 20% off at OFPfarms.com. All right, let's get to something that we will literally all of us will agree on. This, you want to talk about insanity? And I did see a majority of the folks in the chat kind of understood where we were coming from. Again, I get it. The pace is frustrating. I'm not going to tell you that I'm not frustrated by the pace. But I know why the pace is what the pace is, right? That's the point. You know, and unfortunately, these guys, Patel and Bongino, are not in a position to be able to defend themselves personally because they're working on an official capacity. So, you know, I just think we should give them some more time, and I think we all kind of agreed on that. Most of us did. But this is something that I think 100% of us will agree on is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Washington State. This is great. Not great, but, you know, class. Washington State Democrats are moving illegal immigrant criminals to the top of their lists for commutations and pardons to help them avoid deportation. That's right. That's happening in the not so great state of Washington. So if you're an illegal alien, you're already in this country illegally, so you've already committed a crime. Okay? If you're an illegal alien, you've already committed a crime. Let's say you commit another crime here in this country, and you're convicted of it, or are charged with it. You are moved up the list and prioritized in the pardon system. They passed a bill on Tuesday that would move illegal immigrant criminals to the top of the list for pardons and commutations. This comes as the Trump administration enhances nationwide immigration enforcement efforts. The bill is House Bill 1131, introduced by Democrats, passed with a vote of 50 to 46. All Republican lawmakers voted against the bill. 7 Democrats opposed it. The text of the bill reads, if a petitioner indicates in the petition an urgent need for pardon or commutation, including but not limited to a pending deportation order or deportation proceeding, the board shall consider expedited review of the application. In other words, if the illegal alien who is asking for a pardon or a commutation says, I need this pardon to avoid deportation, they are prioritized over other people, American citizens perhaps, who are asking for pardons as well. So not only are we welcoming these people in, right? Not only are we saying, all right, open the border, all of you guys and gals, come on in. You're driving vehicles that are owned by human smugglers with 8 people in them, as the great Michael Patrick Leahy pointed out yesterday on Bannon's War Room. And while we were with him, you want to do all the, no worries. We're going to pardon you so that you don't get deported. Or you're not deported as quickly. Because what did Donald Trump say he wants to do first with deportations? Criminals, right? Violent criminals. So now you can, in Washington state, come into the country illegally, commit a violent crime, write to the Board of Pardon and say, well, I committed this crime, but it may result in my deportation. They will review your case first. How on earth is anybody okay with this? How? Nobody should be okay with something like this. Not a soul. So you could come into the country illegally. You could commit a crime. You can then ask in Washington State, the board of parole, the board of pardons, whoever it is, hey, if this crime is on my record, I might be deported. They will review your case before other people's cases simply because you shouldn't be here and might get sent home because you couldn't keep it under control. This is what the Democrats are doing. This is the hill they are dying on. Folks, if you don't take this, that's right here, screenshot it, screen record it, share it, and bookmark it, between now and the 2026 election, you don't really want to win. Who on earth do you know would say this is okay? Who? Besides crazy left-wing maniacs. I don't care about convincing them. We won in 2024 because we all showed up, right? We outnumbered them. We won the popular vote. This right here needs to be shared into every MAGA circle with every MAGA contact that you have in your phone, on social media, on X, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Take this, please, and send it to them and say, look, if we don't stay engaged and stay involved up until the 2026 midterms, this is what is going to be done to stifle and stand in the way of deporting the people who shouldn't even be here in the first place. I don't care about motivating the moderate at this point. I care about motivating MAGA. If this does not motivate you to say, oh my goodness, and if they're doing it in Washington State, it's going to be done everywhere else, then nothing will motivate you, and then we've already lost in 2026. I don't care about the talking point that we have a short attention span and that, what we're talking about now isn't going to matter in a year. You know damn well something like this, if we continue to pound this into the minds of the voters who came out on November 5th and before that in the 2024 election and say, look, you voted for deportations, right? You voted for this? Look what they're trying to do. They're trying to pardon the people that you want deported so they don't get deported. Those people are going to say, oh, hell no. Share it with everybody. Please. I don't even care if you share this show. I don't care. Go to the Post-Millennial and take this article and share it with people. That's fine too. As long as the information gets out and people understand that this right here is what happens when we go to sleep. We cannot allow those people to take power. We can't. And we won't if we take it seriously. All right. Quick break, more border stuff. And then a really good bit of news out of the Department of Justice. Yes, there is good news. Yes, something has happened. It may not be the quote-unquote arrest that we wanted to see, but it's a very, very positive development. Folks, quick break. We'll get to that in a second. You know, with everything that's going on in the economy, it feels like we're all walking on shaky ground, right? Prices are stuck at a high level. Seems like nothing is affordable. It's no wonder why many people are relying on credit cards to cover the gaps. Credit card debt is skyrocketing. It's leaving a lot of people stressed out. If you're a homeowner, you don't have to face this uncertainty alone. My good friends at American Financing can help you take control. They will help you access the equity in your home to help you pay down that high-interest credit card debt, giving you peace of mind and real savings. On average, people just like you are saving $800 a month. Plus, they may close your loan in as little as 10 days. Do not let the chaos of the economy get the best of you. Call American Financing now. What are you waiting for? Give them a call now. It costs you nothing to get started, and you may delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you a cushion in this uncertain time. Give them a call at 866-885-8027. 866-885-8027. 866-885-8027. 866-885-8027 or AmericanFinancing.net/Farish, F-A-R-A-S-H. AmericanFinancing.net/Farish, F-A-R-A-S-H. 866-885-8027. NMLS 182334. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org. Next up, let me show you what's going on at the LFA TV store. This is LFATV.us, the LFA TV website. Click on that LFA TV store tab. Scroll down. Take a look at everything you see there. Click on the Visit the Store tab. Look at the entire smorgasbord of amazing merch. I think this would make a great gag gift. This Made America Great Again shirt. Get that for one of those, family members of yours. Don't like Donald Trump. Maybe a coworker. It's a $30 gag gift. You'll get way more than $30 worth of laughs if you get them that shirt. Or just buy it as a nice gift for yourself, your loved ones. I don't know. You got the flannels, the ball caps, beach towels, Rise Up coffee. Who doesn't want to start their day with Rise Up coffee? Look at that. Come on. That stuff's good. Straight out of New Hampshire. Rise Up coffee, right? Beach towels, as I mentioned, tank tops, sweatpants, tote bags, everything that you could possibly imagine. There's something for everybody here at LFATV.us. So get something for you. Get something for your mom. Mother's Day's around the corner. Your loved ones, coworkers, friends, brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews. Take a look at LFATV.us, LFATV.us, or JeremyHerald.com/store. All right, another sip of tea and a couple of things on the border. All you really needed was a new president, right? Because what is my saying about laws? Laws only matter if they are enforced, right? When the Democrats over the course of the 2024 campaign cycle were talking about how we needed to pass, Republicans are blocking a bipartisan border bill, and that would allow the border to be secure. We knew that was nonsense and nonstop gaslighting, right? There were laws that were already on the books that if we had enforced, there wouldn't have been a problem and there would be no need for new laws. Here's the proof. Trump has overseen a 99.99, that's better than the survival rate of COVID. Trump has overseen a 99.99% drop in catch and release of illegals on the southern border. 99.99% drop. That's nearly a 100. That means it's almost all gone. Now, it's never going to be all gone. It's never going to be perfect. Perfection does not exist in a world that is controlled by human beings, right? If a human being is involved in an operation, it is not going to be perfect, right? We can try our best to make sure that there is zero election fraud, but I got news for you. Even the most foolproof system, something's going to slip through the cracks. A dead person is going to vote somewhere. Someone's going to vote illegally, and there will always be, quote unquote, fraud in the elections. Whether or not it's measurable is up for debate, and we're going to try and get as close to zero as possible, right? Just because something exists doesn't mean we don't want to take action to make it less of a problem. But we're never going to get to zero illegal immigration, right? There's always going to be somebody who gets in. The point is getting as close to zero as possible. And 99.999% is pretty damn close to zero, right? The White House touted reporting from the Washington Times' Stephen Dinan, which revealed that only 20 migrants, 20, were apprehended by Border Patrol and subsequently released from custody in February. Now, I know the first complaint, well, why were those 20 released? I don't know. But it's a lot better than the thousands that were being caught and released, right? In December of 2023, the Biden administration saw close to 200,000 migrants apprehended and then released into the United States in 1 month. 200,000. That's 2 college football stadiums worth of illegals caught and released into the country in a month. 20 was the number of immigrants that this happened to in December of 2023. Now we also usually get a phone. We've heard from, I believe his name is Mr. LeBlanc. He's up in upstate New York, and he told us over the course of 2023 and 2024, when we would do our call-ins, right, that the U.S.-Canada border turned into a disaster. Because why? Because laws are only laws if they're enforced. And the law was, if you want to come into this country illegally, you can. Doesn't matter where, you can. Well, under Donald Trump, illegal U.S.-Canada border crossings are down 95%. There has not been a single piece of new legislation passed to usher in these changes. All we needed, as Donald Trump said, was a new president. We only needed a new and a beautiful president, by the way. He's a beautiful president. So all we needed to do was what? Enforce the laws that we already had. Isn't that amazing how that works? National attention has remained fixed on the crisis at the southern border because there's more immigration there. A quieter but significant shift has taken place along the northern border. We were told firsthand by a listener, viewer of this show out of upstate New York that it was becoming a problem. He was saying that he saw them crossing, he's right up on the border. He saw them running through his yard. This new report reveals a dramatic decrease in illegal crossings at the U.S.-Canada line, particularly in the Swanton sector, which spans nearly 300 miles across New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire. In March of 2025, just 54 illegal aliens were apprehended in the Swanton sector. A 95% drop from the 1,109 encounters reported in March of the previous year. Holy cow. All we needed is a new president, and all we needed to do was enforce the laws that we already had. The proof is right there. Speaking of laws that we already have, here is some good news out of the Department of Justice. I know we've been frustrated with the pace. I know the arrests that we want to see have not happened. Hillary Clinton has not been perp walked. James Comey has not been perp walked. Adam Schiff has not been arrested. I get it. And the pace is frustrating. But I want to play for you this clip because we are arresting people who are causing big-time problems in our country. Tren de Aragua. If we're not going to arrest Adam Schiff, look, Adam Schiff is a corrupt guy. I can't stand him. As far as I know, he hasn't murdered or raped anybody. Okay? As far as I know. Would I be shocked if he did? Probably not. He doesn't seem to have a very strong moral compass. But as far as I know, he hasn't done that. These Tren de Aragua people are raping people, killing people, robbing people. Now, Schiff has robbed the taxpayer, albeit non-violently, but you get what I'm saying. Here's this report. 27, apparently, members of Tren de Aragua were recently arrested.
Possibility of life in prison and accused the alleged gang members of conspiring to commit murder, sex trafficking young women, assault, dealing drugs, and more. Homan saying this crackdown is just what the city needs.
Collaboration works. It keeps the city of New York safer. No one can argue. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. No one can argue what happened here in the last several months that resulted in 27 TDA being indicted. No one can argue that doesn't make the streets of New York safer.
As of right now, officials say 4 suspects of the TDA gang remain at large. Homan wouldn't say if the suspects would face deportation or stand trial, leaving it up to the prosecutors in the case. Guys.
Yeah, thanks so much. Meanwhile, it's the same tactics used to take down the mob, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's fantastic.
Rudy Giuliani, absolutely.
Yeah, so round them up. And the message is, oh, don't go to New York. They actually are prosecuting, will round you up and put you in jail.
But then a state judge told Eric Adams, I'm blocking your administration from allowing ICE agents to go back to Rikers Island.
Exactly.
And he said, I'm not apologizing for taking dangerous, illegal guns off of the street that are affecting our community.
Right. But Tom Homan yesterday made the case, okay, the judges stopped me from reopening that ICE spot there at Rikers. And Homan said something really interesting that I hadn't thought about. And he said, you know, by not opening it, it could put other migrants in jeopardy. And he went on to explain, you know, when I send the ICE guys out and they go and they're looking for the worst of the worst gang members, there are always, it seems like these days, collateral arrests, other people who are in the country illegally and wind up the deportation process. So it's kind of like, if you open up Rikers, we can make this a little more streamlined and there won't be as many collateral arrests.
All right, so you see 27 members of Tren de Aragua were arrested, conspiring to commit murder, taking them down the way they take down the mob. But how about this? This is nice out of the Department of Justice. Again, I'm not saying these are the flashy, sexy, high-profile political arrests that everybody's been clamoring for and asking for. But this is also not nothing. The Department of Justice has filed terrorism charges for the first time against a Tren de Aragua leader. It's an unprecedented move, as the Gateway Pundit says. The Justice Department has announced that they indicted a leader of Tren de Aragua, and he will face terrorism and international drug distribution charges. It's the first time the Department of Justice has brought terrorism charges against a member of the newly designated foreign terrorist organization, Tren de Aragua. FBI Director Kash Patel called the first of its kind indictment on terrorism charges a critical step in dismantling their network and holding its members accountable. Now, again, this is the type of work that people will look at and go, who cares? It's not Hillary Clinton. You know who wouldn't say that? Jocelyn Nungare's mother, Rachel Morin's family, Laken Riley's family, Travis Wolf's family. And I'm not saying that just because you want Adam Schiff arrested that you don't care about them. I know you care about them. My point is, just because what we may want or have envisioned or have fantasized about, just because that's not happening right now, A, doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. And B, it also doesn't mean that nothing is happening, because this is the first time that something like this has happened. And as Kash Patel mentioned, it is a critical step towards accountability. You know, the courts are working against Donald Trump right now because he designated them terrorists, and they're not being, prosecuted for terrorism and all of this. The 5-count superseding indictment against Jose Enrique Martinez Flores, 24 years old, reported high-ranking member of Tren de Aragua, goes by the name Cheeky. He's charged with conspiring to providing material support to a designated terrorist organization, conspiracy, and cocaine distribution. Flores was arrested by Colombian authorities last month at the United States' request. Quote, Tren de Aragua is not a street gang. It is a highly structured terrorist organization that put down roots in our country during the prior administration, Pam Bondi said. Today's charges represent an inflection point in how the Department of Justice will prosecute and ultimately dismantle this evil organization, which has destroyed American families and poisoned our communities. Okay, I'm going to give credit where it's due to Pam Bondi and to Kash Patel. This is a very, very good step in the right direction. This is something that did not happen under the last administration. This is something that arguably, and I know people may get upset with me for saying this, I think going after Tren de Aragua is more important than releasing the Epstein files. I do. Why? Because the Epstein files and the Epstein client list and the Epstein, those people, some of them are dead, and Epstein's dead. The network is gone. I'm not saying that human trafficking and child trafficking doesn't exist. Of course it does. And I want them to be held accountable. But I think Tren de Aragua, who is spreading rapidly throughout this country, raping people, killing people, carjacking, terrorizing communities, distributing fentanyl and drugs, I think that's a bigger threat to us rank and file everyday Americans than the Epstein stuff is. I'm not saying I don't want the Epstein people held accountable. I'm saying if I were to prioritize both arresting and eradicating Tren de Aragua from this country and releasing the Epstein file, Tren de Aragua is here and Epstein is like here. Okay? I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying it's not as important. Can you do two things at once? You probably can. Yes, we should be able to multitask. Yes, we should be more efficient. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying I want these illegals. I voted for mass deportations. I was more drawn to Donald Trump and his 2024 campaign because of the promise to mass deport people than I was drawn to the idea of releasing the Epstein files. I'm not saying it's not significant. I'm not saying I don't want it done. Of course I want it done. But I think Tren de Aragua and getting them out of our communities is a higher priority than the Epstein files. Simply because of the direct impact that has on our community. If we release the Epstein files, whose community is safer because of releasing the Epstein files? Like demonstrably safer. I know for a fact in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where we live, several months ago, Tren de Aragua was found operating out of a Motel 6. They were busted. That bust made the community safer immediately. So priorities here, right? This is a beautiful thing that happened here. And it will set the precedent going forward. As Brian Kilmeade said, who I don't always agree with, but Brian Kilmeade, hey, don't go to New York. They're taking it seriously. Another one, and this is the DOJ hasn't done anything with this yet, but this is something that we'll be watching now. Tulsi Gabbard. There have been leakers at the Department of Justice. I'm sorry, there have been leakers at the NSA. Tulsi Gabbard refers two intelligence professionals to the Department of Justice for prosecution over leaking to the Washington Post and the New York Times. Now, this one, again, let's do the priorities game because we talked about this with Michael Patrick Leahy yesterday. Do I like Andrew Cuomo? No. I do not like Andrew Cuomo.
Sauce is going to get mad if I don't use my MAGA.
Right, so let's start out. Do I like Andrew Cuomo? No. Do I want Andrew Cuomo held accountable for any criminal acts that he has committed? Yes. But if we're going to divert resources to prosecuting Andrew Cuomo over lying to Congress, which I'm fine with if there weren't bigger fish to fry. This, I would say, is a bigger fish. DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, on Wednesday, referred two members of the intelligence community for prosecution by the Department of Justice. The allegation from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was that the two intelligence professionals had leaked classified information. Okay, remember the signal chat, right? Oh, there's classified information. It's a crime. These guys arguably leaked classified info. We should be prosecuting them. And that, to me, is more important than going after Andrew Cuomo for lying to Congress. Do you see what I'm saying? Priorities. So, is Pam Bondi going to take this? Is she going to do anything with it? I hope so. The move, an official said, should serve as a warning. It comes as the Department of Defense has suffered leaks intended to harm Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. The White House has stood by Pete Hegseth despite calls from the leftist media for his termination. Fox News Digital revealed they had learned from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence that the intelligence community professionals allegedly leaked classified information to the Washington Post and New York Times. They also reported that a third person will also be referred to the Department of Justice for criminal activity. These cases need to be tried. They need to be tried. Why? Because in some cases, the process is the punishment. And these people who are leaking, they don't even think they're going to have to go through the process. This, in and of itself, will likely deter future leaks if the Department of Justice decides that they're going to prosecute these people. And they should. So all eyes are on Bondi with regards to whether or not she takes those seriously. I would take these intel community leaks far more seriously than I would take the Andrew Cuomo lied to Congress referral. Now, if you could put these intel officials in jail and you can go ahead and prosecute Letitia James for mortgage fraud, then we could work our way down to Andrew Cuomo. But it's about triage, right? Priorities. Speaking of priorities, the Democrats' priorities are way out of line. They have gotten in bed with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an MS-13 gang member suspected of human smuggling, stopped in the state of Tennessee by Tennessee Highway Patrol while he was driving a vehicle that belonged to a convicted human smuggler. That's the person the Democrats are rushing to defend. And it's not just Kilmar Abrego Garcia. It's, remember Mahmoud Khalil, the pro-Hamas activist from Columbia University? Oh, they're visiting him. And they're saying he didn't get due process. And they're saying he's being held in horrible conditions. Where were they when the J6ers were being tortured? Where were they when Derek Evans had to spend 23 out of 24 hours in solitary confinement because he refused the COVID vaccine? Where were they? They had no problem taking a grandmother who protested at an abortion clinic and throwing her in jail. They had no problem taking a grandmother who prayed on the steps of the Capitol and throwing her in jail. They had no problem harassing and bullying Matthew Perna until he killed himself. They had no problem with that. None whatsoever. But they have a problem with a pro-terror simp who violated the terms of his visa being held accountable for his actions. The Democrats, folks. The party of terror, the party of gangbangers, the party of illegal immigration, the party of violence, the party of domestic terrorism. They had no problem calling parents who went to school board meetings terrorists. But they have a problem with a guy who has passed out anti-American material at his protests in violation of his student visa. They have problems detaining him. Oh, the conditions. Okay, well, where were you when J6ers were being tortured? Nowhere to be found, that's where. Everyone's calling from Mo. Why?
We're just tired of not getting the right numbers to see Mo.
Oh, well, we got to work harder. What are we at?
614.
All right. We got to do better than 614 if we want Mo. We got to do a little better than 614. No, we don't have enough for Mo. Mo is usually 700. We're not racing to the bottom here. We can't reward mediocrity. You want Mo, you get us to 700. Maybe this will help. Little laugh break. Want to have a laugh break at the end of the show? Nancy Pelosi ain't looking too good these days. Nancy Pelosi is not looking, she's not sounding very good either. She made some remarks yesterday and her handlers had to kind of adjust the microphone because she was slurring and wasn't talking into the mic. This is just, look, I'm not wishing ill on her. I'm not Ilhan. Some people did something. I don't take pride in, looking at an older person and saying, well, she looks like a bag of bones. But It's time for Nancy Pelosi to retire. Look at this.
For Arcadia Produce for hosting us today. This is a remarkable place. I hope you had a chance to see the force of it all. Small businesses like Arcadia are the lifeblood of the American economy, with a great optimism, entrepreneurialism, and courage. It is a privilege to join so many small business owners and community leaders during this cost of living week in America. All over the country, House Democrats are having events with the community about bringing down the cost of living. That was something the president promised in the campaign, but the exact opposite is happening.
That's a beautiful place. It's cost of living week in Democrat. She has to stop speaking. And when she speaks, she has to stop saying words with S's in them. It's not working. It's so nice to be in this beautiful place during cost of living week. The president said this during his campaign. He's going to bring down prices for houses. He campaigns. It's just a beautiful place. It's remarkable. And it's crushing people. I got the Nancy all over the mic there. She looks bad. She looks real bad. All right, I'll give you Mo tonight because you're all good sports. We'll do it, but we got to push harder next time, okay? Thank you to everybody who watched and listened. We'll do calls tomorrow. Second half of the show, 631-527-4545. On anything you have on your mind, as you know. Second half of the show, 631-527-4545. Thank you to everybody who's watch and listen. Please make sure that you share this all over the place. Follow us anywhere you get your podcasts by going to any podcasting platform. Just search for Ungoverned, right? And hit subscribe. That's all you got to do. It helps us reach more people on the audio platforms, too. For those who don't want to watch the video, maybe they can't. I always post the audio shortly after the show goes live. So help us out there if you can. We'd greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Jeremy Harrell coming up next with Live from America, coming up for the next 2 hours. Make sure that you're here for him. Hit the like button for him as well. Hit that thumbs up button on the way out for us. We greatly appreciate it. In the words of our president, our favorite president, Donald Trump, would say, we will never give up, we will never give in, and we will never, ever surrender. And if all else fails, we'll just become ungovernable. Thank you. God bless you. God bless this one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a fantastic rest of your, what is today? Thursday. Newsmax later today. I'll finally be back on with Carl Higbee. It's been a while. A lot of things kind of getting up in the way, and travel and all sorts of stuff. But I will be on later today on Carl Higbee Frontline. So have a great rest of your Thursday. I'll see you later on Newsmax. We're back tomorrow. Same time, same place, rumble.com/LFA TV for Ungoverned at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Also, we'll be on Kale & Company tomorrow for the cut sheet starting at 7:45 Eastern Time, or 7:30 Eastern Time, something like that. You just tune into Kale & Company and watch the whole show. They start at 6 a.m., and their ratings are going through the roof like a rocket ship. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Enjoy your Thursday. In the words of John Fetterman, good night, everybody. Bang, gavel.